A child pulls an old refrigerator door shut, and the mechanical latch locks from the outside. On some models, the insulated cabinet muffled cries, while the positive closing door could not simply be pushed open from within. After the war, discarded refrigerators carried that danger into basements, garages, yards, and vacant lots across America. How did a feature designed to keep food cold become a deadly trap, and how did repeated child deaths push manufacturers and the federal government to redesign the refrigerator door? The story begins when self-latching refrigerators became fixtures in American homes. Introduction: an old refrigerator can be unplugged, rusting and useless as an appliance, and still remain deadly. A child climbs into the empty cabinet during a game. Another child pushes the heavy door. The chrome handle catches with a mechanical click. From inside, there may be no handle connected to the latch, and pressing against the door may not release it. Thick insulation muffles cries while the tight seal slows the exchange of air. The refrigerator no longer makes anything cold, but it can still close like a vault. Why the 1950s? Children trapped inside refrigerators had become a national safety problem. The deaths did not come from one model, one manufacturer, or one famous accident. They came from the same dangerous combination appearing again and again. A child-sized insulated cabinet, a positive closing door, and a latch designed to be operated from outside. So why had American refrigerator doors been built this way? How did discarded appliances turn a kitchen convenience into a nationwide hazard? And how did those deaths change the simple motion of opening a refrigerator door? Chapter 1: The door that had to click before the electric refrigerator. American families used iceboxes, a block of ice-cooled and insulated cabinet, and every opening allowed warm kitchen air to enter. The lesson was obvious. A cold cabinet needed a door that closed tightly. Mechanical refrigerators inherited the same problem. Their compressors or absorption systems could remove heat, but leaking air wasted energy and threatened the food inside. Manufacturers built thick walls, heavy doors, and compressible gaskets around the cabinet opening to make the gasket seal. Many doors used a positive mechanical latch. The outside handle did more than provide a grip. Moving it operated a hook, bolt, cam, or similar mechanism that engaged a keeper on the cabinet. Some designs pulled the door firmly against the gasket as the handle closed. Others latched automatically when the door was pushed far enough. For the adult user, this felt precise and reassuring. The handle moved, the latch caught, and the door stayed shut. A shelf crowded with bottles could not force it open. A slightly uneven floor did not allow it to drift away from the cabinet. The click confirmed that the family's food was protected. As electric refrigeration spread during the 1930s, the refrigerator became one of the defining machines of the modern kitchen. Advertisements showed orderly shelves, clean white interiors, fresh vegetables, frozen desserts, and fewer trips to the store. The substantial handle helped communicate durability. This was not a flimsy cupboard. It was a machine built to hold cold. After wartime restrictions on civilian appliance production ended, American families entered a major period of replacement and expansion. New houses needed refrigerators. Older households upgraded from iceboxes or early electric models. Manufacturers competed through larger compartments, improved freezing sections, brighter interiors, and smoother exterior styling, but the basic latch survived on many models. Not every early refrigerator door worked identically, and some could be opened from inside under certain conditions. The hazard came from designs in which outward pressure did not release the latch, especially when no interior control was provided. A child entering the cabinet encountered the door from the wrong side of the mechanism. The smooth interior liner offered little to grip. Shelves could be removed, leaving a space large enough to crawl into. Once the door closed, the latch outside could remain engaged no matter how hard a small hand pressed against the inner panel. The very features that protected the food made rescue less likely. Insulation reduced sound. The gasket limited air movement. The solid cabinet concealed the child from view, while the refrigerator remained in daily use. Food and shelves occupied much of the space, and adults opened the door regularly. The risk increased dramatically when the appliance stopped working. A failed compressor did not disable the latch. A refrigerator could lose every useful function and preserve the one function that made it dangerous. Chapter 2: When the old refrigerator left the kitchen posture. Prosperity created a new household problem. What to do with the refrigerator that had been replaced? A new appliance arrived, but the old cabinet did not instantly disappear. It might be moved to a basement as temporary storage. kept in a garage in case it could be repaired, placed on a back porch, or left beside the house while the owner arranged disposal. Some became second refrigerators. Others waited empty. At a time before organized appliance recycling was widely available. Unwanted cabinets also appeared in yards, alleys, vacant lots, junk piles, and informal dumping grounds. The steel shell looked too valuable to discard casually, yet moving it required effort. Temporary storage could last for months or years. To own adult. The machine was heavy scrap. To own child. It was a hiding place. A refrigerator offered everything a game of hide and seek rewarded: darkness, privacy, and a door that concealed the person inside. More than one child could enter, making the game feel less frightening. Then a playmate or the child inside could bring the door closed. The latch caught automatically. The child's first response might be to push. If that failed, the child could search for a handle that did not exist, strike the walls, or call for help. The insulated box softened the sound reaching the yard or house. Panic and exertion consumed the limited air more quickly. By the early 1950s, newspapers and public officials were reporting the same pattern across the country. The incidents were not confined to municipal dumps. Children were trapped in appliances stored close to occupied homes, where adults had believed the cabinets were only waiting to be removed. States and cities responded before the federal government did. In 1951, California made it illegal to abandon a refrigerator or icebox large enough to hold a child in a place accessible to children. In 1953, the state strengthened the measure by requiring doors, latches, or both to be removed before such an appliance was discarded or abandoned. The rule attacked the danger at the end of the refrigerator's life. If the door could not close, the cabinet could not become a trap. Safety campaigns carried the same message into neighborhoods. Police departments, fire departments, newspapers, civic groups, appliance dealers, and parent organizations urged owners to disable old latches or remove doors. Communities searched vacant lots and disposal areas for abandoned cabinets. The campaign saved lives only when someone acted in time. A warning could not protect a child from the refrigerator that no adult had noticed behind a garage. A disposal law could be ignored. An owner might intend to remove the door after the weekend, after finding the right tool, or after the appliance buyer arrived. The danger remained built into the product. Congressional debate in 1956 cited national figures from January 1954 through June 1956. 54 children were known to have been trapped in refrigerators, and 39 of them died. The numbers represented reported cases, not a complete count of every incident. They showed that public education and disposal rules had not ended the pattern. The question was shifting. Instead of asking only how adults should manage dangerous old refrigerators, lawmakers began asking why a refrigerator door should be allowed to trap a child at all. Chapter 3: Testing what a child could actually. The manufacturers and inventors had already begun exploring doors that could seal without an exterior-only mechanical latch. A magnetic door seal patent filed in 1950 described a refrigerator closure held shut by magnetic attraction. The inventors wanted the gasket to maintain an effective seal while requiring less force to open than earlier arrangements. The patent was granted in 19533 years before the federal law. This timing corrects a common misconception. Congress did not invent the magnetic refrigerator door. Engineers were already developing it. The law would later require a safety result, not one patented mechanism. General Electric engineer Thomas P. Foley filed magnetic refrigerator latch applications in October 1955. The designs addressed the same balancing act. The closure had to compress a gasket firmly enough to protect the food, yet release without depending on an exterior bolt. By 1956, General Electric advertising was already presenting a latchless magnetic door as a feature on new refrigerator freezers. That early availability did not make the danger disappear. A safer model on a showroom floor could stand only a few miles from thousands of older latching cabinets in kitchens, garages, and yards. Manufacturing innovation had begun, but the national appliance stock changed only as families replaced what they already owned. Other approaches were possible. A mechanical latch could include an interior release. A door could open through outward pressure. The central question was not whether the refrigerator used magnets, but whether a trapped child could escape. That raised a difficult engineering problem. An adult designer could press against a test door and declare it easy to open. A frightened preschool child might behave very differently. The child might push in the wrong place, pull on a shelf, kick at the back wall, or fail to recognize an interior control. Researchers therefore studied children under controlled conditions intended to simulate entrapment without placing them in actual danger. A study published in 1958 reported observations of 201 children between 2 and 5 years old. Researchers examined how the children searched for an exit and how much useful force they could apply. The work showed that children did not respond uniformly. A release that appeared obvious to an adult might not be found or operated by a young child. The new standard needed to describe performance in measurable terms. The Refrigerator Safety Act was enacted on August 2, 1956. It directed the federal government to establish standards for devices that would allow household refrigerator doors to be opened easily from inside. The law did not immediately govern every refrigerator leaving a factory. The implementing standard had to be developed and published, and manufacturers needed time to redesign doors, gaskets, handles, tools, and production lines. The federal requirements applied to covered refrigerators manufactured and introduced into interstate commerce after October 30, 1958. That distinction matters. August 2, 1956 was the enactment date. October 30, 1958 was the compliance date for the new manufacturing and interstate commerce requirement. The standard permitted more than one method. A door could release when outward force was applied from inside. Another design could use an interior knob or similar control. The release had to work automatically, including when electrical power was unavailable. For the familiar push-open design, testing limited the force required at specified locations near the latch edge to 15 pounds. The rule also considered the interior space itself. Removing or rearranging shelves could not create a qualifying child-sized compartment from which the required release became inaccessible. This was a profound change in how the appliance was judged. The old refrigerator door had been designed mainly around food, preservation, and convenience. For the adult standing outside, the new standard required designers to consider the smallest person who might be trapped on the other side. Chapter 4. How the magnet replaced the latched. Engineering challenge was to remove the trap without sacrificing the seal. A refrigerator door still needed to close reliably. Warm air entering the cabinet could increase frost, waste energy, and raise food temperatures. A safety door that remained partly open would solve one danger by creating another problem. Magnetic closure offered an elegant compromise. Magnetic material associated with the gasket or cabinet pulled the flexible seal into contact as the door approached the frame. The attraction held the door closed during normal use, but it did not interlock the door with a bolt that required an outside handle to release. An adult in the kitchen simply put hard enough to overcome the magnetic force. A child inside could separate the seal by pushing outward within the force allowed by the standard. The visible handle changed with the mechanism. Large chrome levers that announced the action of a latch gradually gave way to simpler pulls and recessed grips. The new handle did not unlock the refrigerator. It gave the user leverage against the magnetic seal. The door's familiar modern behavior emerged from this combination. Pull to open, push until the gasket catches, and push outward from inside if escape is necessary. But magnetic seals were not required by name. The Refrigerator Safety Act and its standard demanded an effective inside opening method. Manufacturers remained free to meet the result through compliant engineering. Magnetism became the dominant solution because it sealed the cabinet, suited modern styling, operated without electrical power, and allowed the door to release under outward pressure. The transition took place model by model and factory by factory. After October 30, 1958, the federal rule prevented non-compliant new household refrigerators from being introduced into interstate commerce. It stopped manufacturers from continually adding new exterior-only traps to the national supply.it. Did not remove a single old refrigerator already in a basement or yard. That limitation created a delayed victory. A safer refrigerator purchased in 1959 might replace a latch model bought in 1948. The new appliance entered the kitchen, while the old one moved to the garage. The family had improved the safety of the refrigerator they used and, without realizing it, moved the greater danger closer to where children played. The law changed the future door. The past remained fully operational. Chapter 5. The danger that outlived the Lordites did not disappear when the compliance state arrived. Old refrigerators were durable, A 1950 seconds model could remain useful for roughly 15 years, then survive even longer as a second appliance, storage cabinet, or abandoned shell. Every year, safer doors occupied a larger share of American kitchens, but dangerous latches remained, scattered across the places least likely to be inspected. A California study of child suffocation deaths from 1960 through 1981 found 84 deaths involving refrigerator or freezer entrapment. Most of the children were between 2 and 7 years old. More than one child was trapped in over a third of the incidents. The pattern rose and fell rather than ending immediately. The researchers found high rates in the early 1960s, another increase in the later 1960 seconds, and then a sustained decline. They suggested that the long service life of 1950 seconds refrigerators helped explain the delay. The most revealing finding concerned the refrigerators involved in later incidents. Among the events examined from 1972 through 1981, the researchers found none involving a unit manufactured after the federal standard took effect. The redesigned doors were working. The deaths continued because the old machines were still there. In 1984, the Consumer Product Safety Commission warned the public after two young cousins, ages 3 and 4, suffocated in an abandoned refrigerator in New Jersey. The agency said it had recorded 96 child deaths from refrigerator entrapment since 1973. 8 children had died in 1983 alone. 6 of them died in pairs during 3 separate incidents, nearly 3 decades after Congress enacted the law. An old refrigerator could still close with the same mechanical certainty it had possessed in a 1940 seconds kitchen. Public warnings continued because the hazard had moved beyond the appliance market. Manufacturers could make every new refrigerator safer and still have no control over a cabinet abandoned behind a private house. Gradually, the dangerous population aged out. Latch refrigerators were scrapped. Appliance recycling improved. Disposal laws and public awareness encouraged owners to make stored units inaccessible. By 2019, CPSC staff reviewing national databases for the period beginning in 2000 found no reported entrapment deaths involving household refrigerators. Within the scope of the federal act, that record does not mean every enclosed appliance is harmless. Freezers, coolers, dryers, chests, and vintage refrigerators can present different entrapment hazards. Nor does it mean every surviving antique refrigerator is impossible to open from inside. IT means the redesigned household refrigerator door changed the outcome. The law had targeted return to the old refrigerator with its chrome handle. The family that bought it. The latch represented quality. It pulled a heavy insulated door tightly against its gasket and protected valuable food. Child inside an empty cabinet. The same certainty became the trap. The deaths forced American safety policy to recognize that a refrigerator remained a human environment, even when no person was supposed to enter it. The door could not be judged only by how well it kept cold air inside. It also had to be judged by whether it would let a trapped child out. Congress did not invent the magnetic seal, and it did not require one specific design. It required an escape. Manufacturers found a way to hold the cold in without locking a person in. The familiar magnetic door became the most successful answer. An old mechanical latch closed with a click that promised the door would not open by accident. The modern refrigerator door was redesigned around a different promise. If someone was trapped inside, it would open on purpose.